Greetings and welcome to this week's CCRP update. CCRP Jamaica is a non-profit, non-denominational and non-political membership organization for individuals aged 40 and over. CCRP was founded by Jean Lowry Chin as a tribute to her mother and the seniors who guided her company, Procom, following its 30th anniversary. Our mission: to ensure the talent, experience and wisdom of seniors are respected, to ensure seniors enjoy the quality of life they deserve, to empower seniors to continue contributing to their communities, country, and region. This program is proudly brought to you by Juicy Patties, always serving the land we love, from serving seriously good Jamaican food to empowering our communities. Juicy is proud to nourish Jamaica in every way. In this week's update, we'll discuss Jamaica's labor movement. Our expert speaker will be Mrs. Helene Davis-Whyte, General Secretary of the Jamaica Association of Local Government Officers, JALGO, and Vice President of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions. And this, of course, is to mark Labor Day, which will be observed this year tomorrow, Monday, the 25th, but we'll talk about that. First off, though, a little family business. Help us to continue advocating for our rights and assisting seniors in need. When you're a CCRP member, you're actively supporting the rights of seniors and the elderly and assisting in our outreach programs. If you're 40 years old or over, you are eligible to join CCRP for a fee of only 3,000 Jamaican dollars per year. CCRP opens up a world of exciting events. There are excursions, socials, and wellness and lifestyle events. Members also have access to discounts of up to 30% from our over 100 discount partners. CCRP offers 2 health insurance plans underwritten by Sagicor and an international health plan underwritten by Lloyd's of London. There is also the BCIC JNGI Silver Shield plan for motor and property insurance exclusively for CCRP members. For more information or to join online, visit our website, ccrponline.org. Nominations are now open for the 2026 CCRP Living Legacy Awards. We're inviting both CCRP members and non-members to submit nominations. These awards are presented annually to honor seniors 60 years and over who have contributed to the growth and development of our country. Our honorees are innovators in their respective fields or initiators of programs of profound importance. They may have gone beyond the call of duty and displayed exemplary service and dedication in their fields of endeavor. Email info@ccrponline.org and we'll send you the nomination form for the CCRP Living Legacy Awards. And now to the core of today's update. Tomorrow, May 25, Jamaica will pause to observe Labor Day. It's more than community-level volunteerism or another day off work. It's a celebration of Jamaica's storied labor movement, and the conversation is timed just ahead of Labor Day to be observed tomorrow, May 25. Of course, it happens that way when the 23rd falls on the weekend. We're joined now by Mrs. Helene Davis-Whyte, General Secretary of the Jamaica Association of Local Government Officers, JALGO. Howdy, howdy. Always good to have you, Helene. How are you feeling?
I'm doing well, Jerry.
The modern labor movement. Tell us about that. We know there's links to the political parties. We know these were mass movements and still are viable.
Yes, well, we normally date the modern labor movement to have started coming out of the 1938 riots, some people call it, but we prefer to refer to them as uprisings by workers seeking to get better conditions of work and better pay.
Mm-hmm.
So there were organizations of trade unions before, but the modern labor movement we date back to 1938 for us. In that period, what we had was, workers being organized primarily in the agricultural sector. Because then, we had an economy that was organized differently.
Yes.
And then subsequent to that, we had mechanization. And so we had the growth of factories, doing various things, whether garment manufacturing or just factories that were dealing with manufacture of various items as shoes and clothing, food stuff as well. And so what we had then was what was mainly available right across the world, where workers were organized in mass groupings through their involvement in employment in factories where you had, large numbers of persons coming together to work. And that existed in Jamaica for a long time, coming right up into the 1970s and into the early 1980s as well.
Mm.
So, and one of the things that was a feature of trade unions at the time is that the major trade unions, as the NW and the BITU, had distinct links to both major political parties. And some persons would think that the political parties spawned the trade union movement, but it was in fact the other way around. The
Right.
trade union movement spawned the political parties. And so you had the NW, out of the NW coming but before that, before NW, you actually had the TUC, and coming out of the TUC, you had the attachment to the People's National Party, and
Right.
then after that, you had the BITU being attached to the Jamaica Labour Party. So that was a feature of the trade union movement in Jamaica. In many other countries, you would have found a similar kind of nexus between the trade union movement and political parties. But part of the problem that we experienced because of that link, because we had the relations between political parties being very combative, if you may want to call it that,
Yes. Yes.
and it therefore extended to the trade union movement. So we had a period of trade union rivalry that sometimes became very violent.
Mm.
You would have heard stories. I know I listened to a story from Colonel Charles some years ago where he was describing what happened to him when he was seeking to get into the when the BIT was seeking to get into the um, bauxite industry. And so that was a period that I don't think as trade unionists we were necessarily very proud of.
Mm.
But fortunately, over time, and especially with what was happening in the world in terms of how the world economy was being organized, and the 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 growth of globalization right across the world, the trade union movement began to realize that we could deal with the challenges only if we were united, and
Mm.
so came the formation of the Joint Trade Union Research Development Center in 1981, I believe it was,
It
and
was.
and arising from that, we had a period where the trade union movement recognized that we could collaborate on some things, and those things were education, research. And coming out of that experience of collaboration came eventually the formation of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, where we actually collaborate on all matters, and the Confederation of Trade Unions is seen as the voice of the organized labor movement in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Globalization really started this period when the trade union movement had to basically adapt or die, because of the fact that you had situations where, in terms of how work is organized, that was influenced by what was happening in the wider world. And
Mm.
what we found was happening is that, because of globalization, um, factories were no longer, large factories were no longer the way of the world in terms of how we were producing the various things that the world needed at the time. So what you found happening is that, rather than, say, if you were manufacturing a motor vehicle, rather than it being manufactured in one firm in one location, what you found is that the manufacture was divided up and could happen across various states of the world and brought
Yes.
together for assembly purposes thereafter. And so that meant that the numbers of persons that were organized in those factories were being reduced, in addition to the fact that mechanization was more abundant, if you may want to call it that, in terms of most factories now introducing some kind of automation. It may not have reached the stage where we are now. We were talking about artificial intelligence, but you had a lot of automation, which was replacing a lot of workers as well. And so what we found is that the trade union movement right across the world, and Jamaica was no exception, had to find ways to continue to remain relevant in terms of the services that we provide and how we provide those services, how our workers are organized. So in the case of Jamaica, what you would have seen coming out of globalization is the closure of many industries. Garment industry basically is non-existent in Jamaica today.
Right.
We used to have a thriving shoemaking industry.
Right.
So we have had situations where a lot of younger workers do not necessarily identify with trade union principles in terms of, each one being aligned and joined because, they are providing a similar service in the same organization. You have a lot of individualism among our workers now, which also makes it difficult. So sometimes you may actually be able to organize the workers, but it's difficult to keep them organized because many of them are individuals and they don't necessarily see collectivism and collective action in the same way that older workers would see them. So we now have to be training and retraining our delegates and our workers to be able to make them understand what exactly is a trade union, how is a trade union able to be effective, the notion of collective action being one of the things that we would utilize as a means of being able to force, if you may want to call it, or to get our employers to see any particular situation from our own vantage point. For me personally, one of the things that I have done in my own organization is not to sort of malign the younger workers and say, that they are no good and what have you, but to really just sit with them and understand where they are coming from and try to find a means to be able to integrate and align them with the goals and objectives of the trade union, the movement generally, the particular trade union as well, so that they understand that they actually have a role to play and a play society generally. And so that is how we have had to deal with it because, some people believed that the way work became organized, the way workplace organization changed, and the fact that workers were more individualistic, that would have seen the death of the trade union movement. It hasn't actually seen the death, but we do have problems with trade union density nowadays. We sort of soldier on with the notion that, if we continue our representation, continue to keep contact with the workforce, the emerging workforce, that we can in fact offer services to them. So you may be negotiating a contract that is for an individual rather than for a large workforce, but you are able to negotiate that contract. As I say, it just becomes more difficult, but it's not impossible. And a lot of workers now are recognizing that the trade unions have a skill that is not as expensive, a skill in terms of advocacy that is not as expensive as if they were to employ an advocate, say, as an attorney at law, and also sometimes is better able to put forward their issues because the trade unionist understands more, what is needed at the workplace, what is happening at the workplace, than would say an attorney at law would. So we have not died, and I don't think we will ever die, but we have to be continuously adapting and changing so that we are able to offer services that the quote unquote new worker will in fact be demanding.
Wow, Mrs. Helene Davis-Whyte, as usual, very, very informative information. And believe me, we very much appreciate you taking the time to talk with us just a little ahead of Labor Day. But like you say, the one another thing never ever stale because we do need each other and we do need to organize. We just change the configuration as needs demand and perhaps try to stay a little ahead of it where we can. That's all.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. General Secretary of the Jamaica Association of Local Government Officers, JALGO, Mrs. Helene Davis-Whyte, formerly Vice President of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions. Have a great one and thanks again.
And thank you very much for having me, Jerry.
Bless you. And so that's it for today on the CCRP update. Listen, draw closer to our community, no delay. Until next Sunday at 3 for all things CCRP, visit our website at ccrponline.org. Like or follow CCRP Jamaica online, the Caribbean Community of Retired Persons. Is a non-profit membership organization for persons 40 and over, retired or preparing for retirement. And this program is proudly brought to you by Juicy Patties, always serving the land we love. From serving seriously good Jamaican food to empowering our communities, Juicy is proud to nourish Jamaica in every way.